Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And welcome to this session on innovation with impact, on learning from Afro scaling of mental health innovations. My name is Peter Singer, and I'll be your moderator today. And it's really my pleasure to welcome you and to get started. And thanks again, everyone, for joining. Today's session will be very important because it focuses on the human stories behind innovation. It will illustrate that innovation has impact. You will see some brilliant homegrown innovations from the African region, and you will hear about WHO's contribution to innovation and really the key challenge of innovation, which is scaling it for impact. As you're listening to this session, I want you to think, how do we take the innovations that you're going to hear from reaching tens of thousands of people to reaching millions of people? To get us started, I want to turn now to the Director General of WHO, Dr. Tedros. Innovation, Dr. Tedros, has really been central to your transformation agenda, which has been very fundamental. And it's key for reaching the SDGs. And Dr. Tedros, I wonder if I could ask you to welcome everyone onto this webinar now. The floor is yours, and thank you so much for joining us and for your leadership in innovation.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to all colleagues who are joining us from around the world for this WHO Innovation Impact event. And a special welcome to my sister, Dr. Shidi Moeti, WHO's Regional Director for Africa. Good mental health and well-being are essential for all of us to lead fulfilling lives, to realize our full potential, and to participate productively in our communities. The COVID-19 pandemic has taken a heavy toll on mental health. So many people have been affected so profoundly by the loss of those they love, the loss of livelihoods, or the loss of social interaction. At the same time, services for mental health have been severely disrupted in many countries, setting us further back in our efforts to see 1 billion more people enjoying the benefits of universal health coverage by 2023. Even before the pandemic, the world was facing a shortfall of 730 million against that target. To make progress towards that target, we need innovation to find new ways of expanding more services to more people. Innovation is a key of WHO strategy. More specifically, we want to cultivate innovations that respond to country needs and scale them up for the greatest impact. Our country offices and WHO representatives play a vital role, serving as a key interface between innovations and ministries of health. Homegrown innovations like the three we will hear about today from Zimbabwe, Uganda, and Ethiopia are great examples. These innovations demonstrate how mental health innovations scaled within countries' primary healthcare systems can change the lives of people with mental health conditions, such as depression and substance use problems, and encourage those who were previously afraid or unable to seek support. My thanks to the three teams from our country offices who will present their ideas today, and to our colleagues in Afro and here at headquarters for everything you're doing to foster new ideas and bring them to scale. As we always say, there is no health without mental health. I thank you. And Peter, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Tedros, my friend, and thank you for your leadership. I'd now like to call upon another huge champion of innovation, Dr. Shidi Moeti, who is the regional director for Africa. As I say, Dr. Moeti is an incredible champion of innovation. For example, in her recent brilliant Steve Biko lecture, she raised it in a very, very interesting way, and would encourage you all to see this. Shidi, please, you have the floor, and welcome, and thank you for your partnership and with your team.
Good afternoon, good evening, and I also would like to greet any partners and guests who have joined us today. I'm very happy to say a few words during this special event. Showcasing breakthrough innovations from Africa for Africa and with the potential for global impact. In the African region, through our regional transformation agenda initially, and now we're institutionalizing innovation as part of our DNA, recognizing that the future of health in sub-Saharan Africa should be underpinned by the development and use of homegrown innovations, which can be adapted to country-specific needs. This work started with the Innovation Challenge in 2018, in which 2,400 experts shared their bright ideas with us at WHO. We were able to connect the top innovators with funding and opportunities to scale up their innovations in countries across the continent. I'm delighted that the reconciliation table, one of the innovations that emerged from our inaugural challenge, is being showcased today. This fulfills one of my ambitions to see African solutions being marketed worldwide to address global health challenges. We know that mental health is an area that is often overlooked, underfunded, and under-prioritized. In the WHO African region, government expenditure per capita on mental health is less than 10 cents. Yet mental health needs in the African region are significant. 6 African countries are among the top 10 globally for suicide per 100,000 people. There is a lack of information, there's stigma, and other significant barriers that prevent people from seeking help. This is despite the fact that treating anxiety, depression, and other mental health disorders is an affordable, cost-effective way to promote well-being and prosperity. Up to 80% of those treated improve, usually within 4 to 6 weeks. Depression is preventable and treatable if diagnosed early. In the context of rising social isolation and anxiety related to the COVID-19 pandemic, as already been indicated by Dr. Tedros, addressing mental health has become even more important. So this is an area where innovation is urgently needed and where it has the potential to have a tremendously positive impact. It's very encouraging to see mental health igniting innovative thinking, especially from African innovators. In closing, I look forward to today's event being a catalyst to further support and promote the scaling up of innovations in the African region and globally. I'd like to congratulate the innovators showcasing their work today. You are indeed the pathfinders. I encourage you to continue paving the way towards better health outcomes among people in Africa and globally. The world needs you. And thank you once again. Thank you so much. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Moeti. Thank you, Dr. Tedros, for your welcome. I'd now, and thank you also for both of you for your championship and your leadership of innovation with impact. I'd now like to call upon WHO's Chief Scientist, Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, who's been a great supporter of innovation for her opening comments. Soumya, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Peter, and good morning, Dr. Tedros, Dr. Moeti, and colleagues from around the world for joining us today. As both Dr. Tedros and Dr. Moeti mentioned, innovation is becoming very much part of the WHO's DNA, and particularly it's taken a leading front role since the transformation agenda and the creation of the science division and the creation of the innovation unit within the digital health and innovation department shows that we prioritize innovations very much within WHO now. I think the pandemic has really shown us both the gaps in public health and healthcare responses that we need to fill, but also the great power of innovation, both in leveraging scientific and technological advances, but also in a number of community-based initiatives that have been shown to be effective and, if scaled, can help in advancing universal health coverage. At WHO, we want to play a role that is uniquely WHO's role in linking the demand from the end user, so identifying the gaps where solutions are needed, networking with global innovators, institutions, individuals. Many of them are individuals working in communities who have bright ideas. And some of those, I think, are things we're going to hear about today. And then making sure that there is the evidence, the research, the data to support the scaling of those innovations. And what WHO can do best is to identify those innovations which are likely to have biggest public health impact and help to scale them through our regional offices and the 150 or so country offices that we have. So our goal, of course, is universal access to quality assured health services for everyone without financial impediments. And while today we're focusing on 3 innovations that address mental health, which is a very big challenge, as we've just heard, we are not limited to mental health innovations. And we will continue to have these dialogues and share with you all as we work with our partners to advance the innovation agenda at WHO. Thank you, Peter. Back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sonia. Thank you for your leadership as well. Now I'd like to call upon Dr. Lindiwe Makubalo, who's the Assistant Regional Director for Africa. And Lindy, I think you bring some really unique perspectives to this question, and very much looking forward to your comments. Please, you have the floor, Lindy.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Peter. Good morning, good afternoon, and evening to you all, and greetings to Dr. Tedros, Dr. Moeti, partners and colleagues. This is indeed a very important event, as this activity and similar activities take us so much closer to creatively and innovatively finding ways to improve mental health and bring us closer to achieving our sustainable development goals. As DG and the other speakers have said, COVID has reminded us of the importance of innovation for improving health outcomes and for Africa to become more self-sufficient in drawing from the human capital that we have on the continent. In Africa, we're more than convinced that the solutions that are created in the context of their challenges stand a very good chance of being sustainable. This is simply because the realities on the ground will always be taken into consideration in the development process. Building on our previous work on innovation in the region, we in Africa will continue to influence the development of those innovations that will serve the marginalized people, as well as those innovations that can be deployed to different settings and different areas. Scaling up of innovations that close the inequity gap and leave no one behind is indeed a priority for us. And I think the three innovations being showcased today really exemplify that spirit, and congratulations to them, and we're really looking forward to hearing and learning a little bit more about them. As we continue to ensure that we drive science and evidence to be a marker for promoting innovations within the region, we are strengthening this area of science, innovation, precisely so that we can harness, and we are very convinced that there is a lot of capacity, a lot of opportunity in the region that needs to be harnessed. And we are really embarking, and this work obviously started quite a few years back, but we're really hoping to accelerate and see how we can best harness what we have on the ground. We will continue to use the regional strategy for scaling up health innovation in Africa as our rallying point in guiding countries to strengthen their innovation capacity and to make sure that they prioritize scaling up of those innovations that have potential for sustainable impact. We know that scaling up is always a challenge, and we are available and ready to be working closely with countries and innovators to ensure that we can give whatever support that we can to bring ideas to scale and to sort of ensure that we can really promote innovation and scale. I personally will continue to be a partner, and the team at Afro continue to be a partner. And as we've heard, Dr. Moeti has been a champion of this area, and we will certainly look forward to what we'll be hearing today. But our message is that we are really excited, very keen, and are ready to even do more in this area. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lindy, for those comments, and especially for emphasizing the equity-seeking aspects of innovation with impact. It's much appreciated. Congratulations, welcome, and your leadership is really warmly appreciated. I'd now like to call upon Louise Eyersnap. Louise has really led, now as acting interim director of the Department for Digital and Health Innovations, really led the energization of this framework, and she's the secret engine behind a lot of the work, that you're about to see. So Louise, thank you so much for your incredible leadership, and over to you to describe WHO's approach to innovation and our framework and how we are trying to flip the switch from supply to demand.
Thank you, Peter, for those kind words. Very pleased to briefly explain the WHO Innovation Scaling Framework. In essence, this is about a new way of working in WHO across countries, regions, and our headquarters, and a new way of working with our partners, our member states, and innovation funders and innovators. It leverages WHO's global health leadership and has WHO act, and I'd like to show the slides here. I don't know if they're up, the slide with the triangle. So it has WHO act as a convener, exactly that one, thank you, between the demands of countries, meaning the needs and priorities of people's health at country level, with the supply of mature and implementation-ready innovations that we source through innovation funders. And throughout, we link to the third part of that triangle, which is assessment. And this happens both when innovation funders run innovation challenges and identify the most viable, mature, scalable innovations, but also when WHO then comes into the picture and links those innovations to places where there is a need and a priority in countries identified. And there we apply WHO's own technical expertise. But going to the next slide, the best way to explain this framework is actually through our lessons learned about matchmaking and scaling innovation, as we have been applying this framework in the past year. So first of all, we've learned that demand drives scaling. You cannot and should not push innovation. It doesn't work if you want innovation to be scalable and sustainable in countries. It must be pulled and wanted by people and governments in countries. Secondly, in this regard, WHO can add a value. We've seen that in terms of unlocking the demand, and through those 150 country offices that our chief scientist pointed to, this is where the conversations are happening directly between our leadership on the ground, ministries of health, and where innovation can be part of that conversation as a means to addressing barriers and gaps. And we also see that WHO and UN country representatives in a way, act as quote unquote the sales force of innovation in countries, because they have those conversations with ministries of health and other parts of government, and can really help do that match between what are the needs and where is it that we're not making enough progress, and where can innovation come in as an ingredient that can help accelerate impact and address barriers. In terms of assessment, we have learned that this is indeed a double-edged sword. It is the part of the process that's really important in terms of building confidence in innovation, but it's also a place where innovation can get killed if the assessment is unfit for purpose. Our process at the moment in facilitating this framework and the matchmaking is admittedly a bit heavy. We work through Zoom calls, emails, and SharePoints. And what we really need in our future vision is a digital matchmaking platform, a so-called Tinder, if you will, for innovation, where we can have that matchmake happen asynchronously. Our supply pipeline, there we have learned that this wholesale approach, as you may call it, where WHO works with organizations, innovation funders and aggregators, and have them manage the vast retail market of innovation, is actually the most effective and efficient for us. Because that way we can get to the most mature and scaling ready innovations faster and achieve impact faster. Innovation impact is about partnerships and collaboration. It's clear no one can do this alone, and we need each other. And this is what this framework is all about, is collaboration inside and outside WHO. Lastly, horizontal scaling is about making sure that our leadership in countries who are working with innovation and innovators speak to one another and learn from one another. And we've seen some beautiful examples on this between some of the people you will meet here today. So on that, thank you very much. Peter, back to you.
Thank you so much, Louise. And you mentioned our WRs, and Dr. Tedros always reminds us that the WHO representatives are really the front line and the tip of the spear, if you will. And we're very pleased to have several of them throughout this presentation, but you'll meet the first one now, Dr. Mamunur Malik. And Mamunur, my friend, it's terrific for you to join us. This is actually the second in a series. The first one focused on MRO with the example of Somalia and solar-powered oxygen. And that is a credit to your leadership, Mamunur, in terms of what's happening there. And you're going to give us an update on that. So thank you so much, and over to you.
Thank you, Peter, for this opportunity. A very good morning from Mogadishu. I will speak about a healthcare solution in Somalia, which was meant for pandemic, but reaches beyond the pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic hit the health system of every country. In Somalia, it was on the verge of collapse. And we knew why: recurrent crisis, conflict, and underinvestment. There was a sense of urgency to act differently. As the deaths from COVID-19 surged, the need for medical oxygen soared in Somalia. We observed that it was not ventilators for which the patients were dying, it was lack of simple medical oxygen. We worked with our regional office and also with WHO headquarters to rapidly assess and address the situations. We worked as one WHO and had one goal: what can we do better and more powerfully to save lives? We needed an affordable solutions, yet sustainable, and one that did not overburden our fragile health system. So we linked it up ourselves with the innovator funders, Grand Challenge Canada, and we set up 3 solar-powered oxygen concentrators in one of the hospitals, which is based in a conflict zone in the country. So we have ensured uninterrupted supply and provision of medical oxygen at the point of care 24/7. Now, are we seeing any difference after implementing the solar-powered oxygen delivery in a conflict zone? In last 6 months, 645 patients received oxygen from these 3 solar-powered oxygen concentrators. Almost 100 patients a month, or 3 to 4 patients a day, are receiving medical oxygens from this oxygen delivery system. What we have seen, the peripheral oxygen saturation of all these patients who have received oxygen has improved from an average of 60% at the time of diagnosis to almost 99% at the time of discharge. A total of 112 patients who were diagnosed either with suspected or confirmed COVID-19 patients also received medical oxygen. And all of them survived their infection. Sadly, 2 patients had a fatal outcome, a 70-year-old female with heart failure and a neonatal male with anencephaly. Solar-powered oxygen systems were initially developed in other countries to support the treatment of childhood pneumonia. But our experience in Somalia has shown that oxygen was used for clinical care of patients across the entire spectrum of life, from 1 day to 89 years of age, and for numerous clinical conditions, COVID-19, pneumonia, hypoxemia, asthma, neonatal asphyxia, and trauma. In particular, the trauma patients in this conflict zone benefited from this urgent and reliable access to oxygen. The survival outcome have improved dramatically during the first golden hour after the injury. Most importantly, the energy generated from this system made the 77% needs of the hospital, and the electricity production sometimes exceeded the daily load of the hospital. So this energy is also being used to address other needs, such as powering lights in the operating theater, powering biomedical equipment, such as ventilators, nebulizers, and monitors. This innovation has also broader implication for improving health of our children in this country. Every year, pneumonia kills close to 15,000 to 18,000 children under 5 in Somalia. Linking this innovation to primary healthcare and using the community health workers for referral of children can be a game changer for healthcare in Somalia. In some of the African and Western Pacific countries, we have seen that up to 35% of childhood deaths from pneumonia can be prevented by early use of medical oxygen produced through these concentrators. So this means if we can successfully scale up this solar-powered oxygen delivery at the PAC level, we could potentially save or prevent 7,000 children from dying from pneumonia every year in this country. What we are also seeing, the trust and the confidence of the people on a functioning health system are coming back. In closing, I must emphasize, we must not fail in fragile and conflict-affected countries. We should also not be afraid of taking bold decisions and doing it right if your heart says to do so. We should and must win in these countries where health system is fragmented, fragile, and vulnerable. If we win here, we can change the status quo. Innovation can be our answer if we want to reverse the health inequalities which we see in Somalia and possibly in other countries. Making an impact at the country level is and will continue to be at the heart of our collective works for health. This is also the main transformative agenda for Director General Dr. Tedros. With this brief statement, I thank you again for giving me this opportunity to talk. Over to you, Peter.
Thank you, Mamanur. Thank you for the update. Thank you for your leadership. And it's a great illustration of Lindy's point on innovation for equity and reaching the unreached. What I'd like to do now is pivot our focus into mental health and look at these concrete innovations that we promised we would look at. I also want to welcome not only our Zoom audience, but we're streaming on YouTube, on Facebook, on the intranet in WHO, in Afro, and welcome all those folks watching. So to give us an overview of the field of mental health innovation, I want to call upon Dr. Devorah Castell. Devorah is the head of the Department of Mental Health and Addictions at WHO, and she'll set the scene, and then we'll go into actually hearing from the 3 innovators that Dr. Tedros mentioned. Devorah, could you briefly sketch for us a little bit the scene of mental health and why innovation is so important to reach the outcomes that you seek in mental health? Devorah, over to you, and thanks for your leadership.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Thank you very much. And thank you to Dr. Tedros and Dr. Moeti and all distinguished colleagues. And thank you very much to the Innovation Department for having organized this meeting on mental health. And anybody wonders why mental health, I thought I would give you a few reasons from our perspective about this. And the main one being that there is 1 billion people with a mental disorder worldwide, and 80% of people with those mental disorders in low and middle income countries do not receive treatment at all. That would be enough of a reason, I think. But also many of them are children. 1 in 5 of children suffer from a mental disorder. And this also is a very important cause of suicide, particularly also among young people. The global economy also pays a price for these numbers and for the number of people not receiving treatment and unable to contribute productively to their community. However, on average, countries spend 2% of their health budget in mental health. But there are good news also. Not everything is negative. The good news is that the World Health Assembly agreed to extend the Mental Health Action Plan to 2030, which means that is showing a commitment to move in this field. We have all regional offices also prioritizing one way or the other the work they are doing in mental health. So one of the challenges from our perspective here is that developing effective mental health systems is complex. It is probably the main reason being that what we called mental health means a number of different conditions with different levels of severity. In many contexts includes also neurological issues such as epilepsy or dementia, includes also substance use related issues. And as a result of this complexity, there is not one treatment or one intervention that will address all these areas. So if we want to think about the mental health system, we need to talk about primary, secondary, and tertiary level of care. We need to talk about community care as well as hospital-based care. We need to talk about integrating mental health in other health areas, but also beyond the health sector. But mostly it is about moving away from a fragmented system into a sustainable, well-functioning mental health system. Innovations can help us increase access to evidence-based care and support to vulnerable populations. The innovations we will all hear about soon are examples of the excellent work that is being conducted by colleagues in different contexts in the African region. And from our side, WHO recommends brief psychological interventions similar to the ones presented today, which is why some of our own global public health goods are also innovative, evidence-based psychological interventions that are implemented in a number of countries. Allow me to name just a few. Program Management Plus, PM Plus, being implemented in a number of countries, individual or group intervention, Self-Help Plus, group-based intervention, step-by-step, online guided intervention. So a number of products being produced. Now, while interventions can go some way in addressing the mental health burden, they need to be provided as part of a comprehensive approach to mental health care. And we need to scale them up in a broader, bigger, comprehensive system. And so under the WHO Special Initiative for Mental Health, WHO is working in countries.
Mental pretende. Hay una interferencia.
Hello? Can we move on?
Yeah, go ahead, Deborah,
Okay,
and
thank you.
go ahead and wrap up.
I was just finishing anyway, saying that in the context of the WHO Special Initiative for Mental Health, WHO is working with a number of countries to support mental health system strengthening. It's about ensuring that the mental health services environment can sustainably house these interventions like the one we will hear about very soon. And the way to do that is addressing policy reforms, fostering mental health leadership, expanding and improving the quality of mental health workforce, supporting referral and supply chains, and of course, health information systems. So innovations is a big part of this, and we are definitely excited about this opportunity to showcase some of the excellent work that is being done in Afro. So back to the colleagues, to you, Peter, and thank you very much.
Thank you. So let's showcase them. There's nothing like some concrete examples. And the first one is the Friendship Bench. And we're going to have an introduction to the Friendship Bench for a couple of minutes from Dixon Chibanda. Dixon, you and I have known each other for 10 years or more. Let me express my respect and appreciation for your work and for your leadership. And over to you to introduce the bench, and then we'll have a live back and forth with your colleagues in Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, and good day to you all. In Zimbabwe, over 80,000 people have sat on a wooden park bench to get therapy from a trained community grandmother. The mission of the Friendship Bench is, in essence, to take people out of depression. We have successfully piloted this model in Malawi, in Zanzibar, in Kenya, and in the Bronx in New York City. And recently we commenced work in Jordan, and we have had discussions with Rwanda and Liberia about introducing Friendship Bench in these countries. And the work that we do is really rooted in research with over 50 peer-reviewed publications. You know, Peter, a few days ago, I was having a chat with the WR in Zimbabwe, Dr. Alex Gasasira, and I indicated to him that the inclusion of Friendship Bench in the WHO Mental Health Special Initiative is truly a game changer for community mental health and deinstitutionalization of care in Zimbabwe and beyond. We are also quite fortunate at Friendship Bench that the Friendship Bench is also prominently featured in the WHO's Quality Rights Initiative, which drives home the message about a rights-based community mental health service. So it's against this background that we really are poised for exponential growth and scale as Friendship Bench. Our 5-year strategic plan is to train over 15,000 grandmothers, introduce the model in 10 countries, and reach over 5 million people. And we strongly believe that by leveraging WHO support at HQ, regional, and country levels, we can truly integrate Friendship Bench into existing health programs such as HIV, maternal and child health, NCD in a real big way, obviously with the government taking a leading role as the ultimate doer at scale. I'd just like to conclude by also acknowledging the support we have received from Grand Challenges Canada over the years. You know, Grand Challenges Canada made a conscious decision some 10 years back about Friendship Bench. You know, they saw the potential of Friendship Bench and have continued to support the work that we are doing. So we are really excited to be included in this. Back to you, Peter. Thank you very much.
Dixon, thank you so much. And, you know, we're going to hear from Alex in a second, and that's a great pairing, you and Alex. And we'll also hear from Tina from Grand Challenges Canada and many others, of course. So now, though, I want to turn to Charmaine, and we're actually going to have the experience of the Friendship Bench through Charmaine by meeting Grandma Komai and a client on the Friendship Bench there. So if we could bring up, Carlos, that video with Charmaine. Charmaine, are you there?
Hi, Peter, I'm here.
Great. I said video, but of course, I mean the live feed. Charmaine, thank you so much for translating into the Shona language. Would you please express our deep respect and appreciation to Grandma Komai and to her client there on the Friendship Bench for speaking with us today.
Okay. Gogo Khumai hanzi tinokutendai nekuva nesu zuva ranhasi paprogram ino iri kutaura ichida kuona kuti friendship bench inoshanda sei.
Nesu tinoda kutenda nekuuya kupurogiramu yakanaka zvakadai kuti titsanangurewo mashandiro atinoita nevazukuru pabench.
Okay, so she's very thankful for allowing her to come here at this wonderful program and talk about the work that they do on the friendship bench.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Grandma. My first question, actually, I wanted to ask our colleague, the client there on the bench, to describe his experience with the friendship bench. How's he feeling now? And what's been the impact of the friendship bench? And also, how would he like us to address him?
Okay, Anzi, minoda kuti tiku addressing Sani.
Gift.
All right, so he says.
Thank you, Gift.
All right. Saka Gift, Anzi ngatisananguro here kuti iwe uri kunzwa sei ne-friendship bench uye friendship bench yakakubatsira sei mukati meupenyu hwako.
Right, inini ndiri kunzwa kufara. Inini ndiri kunzwa kufara chaizvo. Chekutanga ndoda kungotaura just a brief about my background. Inini ndakakurira ndichigara kuma-orphanages eKutare. So our behavior yanga isiri right by the moment that I got orphanage. So takasvika panguva yekunzi tapuwa ma-exit plan ekuti everyone afana chibaba home just because of our behavior. So I end up now kugara mustreet. Then mustreet momo ndakasanganawo neshamwari dzataigara nadzo mustreet tiitawo zvema-drugs and stuff. So by the moment yataita izvozvo taitoona zviri zvinhu zviri right kwandiri. So one of the days ndakazofamba ndichienda kusatellite clinic then ndine shamwari dzangu. So taida kuenda kubozi kwakune ma-protector plus ekunotora ikoko because taita musikanzwa. So that's when pandakasangana naGogo Khumai. Wakati wada kutaura neni but ndakatomboramba ndati ndikaudzwa kuti chii. So ndakazobvuma ndichibva ndaenda kunotaura nawo then yobva ndoudzawo maererano nezve bench. So ndakava nenguva yakanaka because ndakabatsirika chaizvo ende zvakaita kuti ndisiyewo mamwe mavose ezvinhu zvataita because right now ndaawo munhu akukwanisa kuenda kuchechi. I'm no longer a drug addict because ndatora all sorts of drugs tamba neshamwari dzangu. And right now ndakukwanisa kutsvaga mari kuti zvitoro zvangu ndanopa kugara ndakurendawo ndachagara mustreet.
Great, thank you Gift, for sharing your experience. Charmaine, that was quite a bit to translate, but maybe you give us the recap.
Okay, so Gift explained that he was once stayed in an orphanage in Mutare. And there with his friends, they used to engage in very bad behavior, which resulted them in being exited from the orphanage. And from there, that is when he went to stay in Western Triangle, which is the community he stays in now. And when he got there, he was living in the streets and he met some friends who introduced him to drugs. So he started taking drugs and creating some bad behavior in the community with his friends. Then one day he went to the local clinic where Gogo Khumai works, and he met the Friendship Bench grandmothers who talked to him about mental health and about Friendship Bench. And from there, the grandmother invited him to the bench because he had presented to them that he was not doing so well. And at first, he refused to take part in or to talk to the grandmothers. But after some time meeting the grandmothers at the clinic, he decided to sit on the bench and talk to the grandmothers. And after their conversations for a while, Gift began to understand his problem and decided that he wanted to leave his bad behavior and become a better person. So he's explaining that after talking to the grandmothers, he is now a changed person. He is now going to church. He now has a job and he's working, and he now has a house of his own, and he's doing very well in his life after going through the experience with the grandmothers.
Thank you so much, Charmaine. Could you just please tell Gift quickly that we feel so happy that he's feeling better, and we thank him so much for sharing his story with us.
Okay, Gift hanzi tiri kufara kuti iwe wakunzwa zviri nani uye nekubvuma kutiudzawo nyaya yako yawakasangana nayo.
Yeah, inini ndiri kutofarisisa because ndakwanisa kugainawo some experience kuti you can still go on with life without some drugs and stuff. It's no stress and stuff.
All right, Saka. So he says he's very happy as well that he is now able to move on with his life and to also live a life without depending on drugs.
Thank you so much. And I also want to extend our thanks. You know, health workers are so important. And so to Grandma Kamai, I want to express our respect and appreciation for the work that she does. And want to thank her so much. Does she have a brief comment she'd like to add to what Gift said?
Okay, gogo toda kutendai nebasa rakanaka ramunoita nekubatsira kwamuri kuita vanhu. Hanzi pane here zvamungade kuwedzera pane zvataurwa naGift?
Ndinoda kutenda zvikuru nekuti koka kwamaita kumusangano wakanaka kudai. Ndinoda kutenda zvikuru pabasa ratinoita pa-Friendship Bench. Rakaita kuti ndombopasemenza waGift, rakaita kuti upenyu waGift hushanduke, kunyange nomumakommunity matiri kugara, upenyu hwevana vechidiki hwashanduka. Vana vechidiki vakusiya zvinodhaka vachiteerera mukati memisha yavagere, uye vabereki vakanga vachishungurudzika zvakanyanyisa kuburikidza neunhu hwevana. Havasi vana chete vanoita kuti vabereki vashungurudzike, zvinoita kuti vanhu muupenyu vashungurudzike zvakasiyana siyana.
Okay, so she's saying she wants to thank you again for allowing her to come to this important meeting, and she's giving reference to Gift and other young people in the community that from their engagement with young people and helping them on the Friendship Bench, a lot of parents in their communities and other people have really appreciated the work that they've done and the transformation that is happening to young people as a result of support from the Friendship Bench through the grandmothers.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Go Gift, go Grandma Kamai. And I just want to ask my colleagues listening here, I don't know how many you'll hear because their audio isn't all on, but just to give you our appreciation with a round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you. You see everybody clapping. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Charmaine, for translating. Thank you so much. Now, I'd like to shift to a second example. Carlos, if I may, and that is, and Dixon, of course, thank you for your leadership. Thank you so much. The second example to shift to now is from Ethiopia, and it is it's the example that Dr. Moeti mentioned that came through the Afro Innovation Challenge. And Carlos, if you could highlight Ephraim Wildeyesus from Integrated Mental Wellness in Ethiopia. Ephraim, could you just take 1 or 2 minutes to introduce, and then we'll have a short video as well from your innovation. So Ephraim, are you with us there? And please just take 1 or 2 minutes to introduce, and then we really want to see the video with the work that you do. So Ephraim, over to you. Thank you so much. And thank you again, Grandma. Thank you, Gift. Please stay with us. And we really appreciate what you're doing and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, Peter. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Ephraim Wildeyesus, and joining right now from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Very excited to be here today and get the chance to talk about our pioneer homegrown mental health innovation, which has a huge impact in Ethiopia. And thanks to the DG, Dr. Tedros Adhanom, and the whole team who made this happen. So today, I'll take just 2 minutes to share about our innovative mental health program, which is Integrated Mental Wellness, a social enterprise program in Ethiopia since 2010. And we were recognized by WHO Afro in 2018. And it's called Reconciling Around the Dining Table, or it's called in Amharic Erkmat. So in Ethiopia, we have different problems regarding mental health. We have huge suicidal rates, increasing suicidal rates, substance abuse, and we only have 83 psychiatrists, and our population is 110 million. So we thought of an innovative solution to address this huge issue. And the idea was this tool, which many of us in our home, a radio. So we decided to use the radio 3 times a week. And we reached 10 million people through this radio program that talks about mental health. And then because of the radio program, we've observed that a lot of people wanted to access a mental health. So what we've decided is that, okay, we can start a small clinic, but also we need a circle, a healing circle, a trauma healing circle where people can gather, and also we can reach many millions and thousands of people through this circle. So that's how we started the service, and it's called Erkmad, and the community-based trauma healing and resilience program is highly dependent on storytelling through the radio program. So radio is a powerful tool, and the community loves to participate in the radio. So we also hope that WHO and other stakeholders will be interested to support on our scale up. We want to reach 50 million people in the next 5 years through scaling up our radio program. And we want to increase our 3,000 beneficiaries annually into 50,000 beneficiaries through community healing circles. Thank you very much.
Great, Ephraim. Thank you so much. And let's roll your video. Carlos, please.
Malkamu was a young husband and the father of 2 beautiful children, Ababa age 8 and Abel age 5. The family lived in Addis Ababa, where Malkamu worked as a clothes weaver for traditional Ethiopian clothing. In late 2015, Malkamu's wife began to exhibit emotional problems and became increasingly angry and aggressive. One night while Malkamu was sleeping with his 2 young children, his wife came into the room and repeatedly stabbed and killed their small daughter. Malkamu's wife was sent to prison for 20 years for the crime, but in the weeks that followed the incident, Malkamu became increasingly depressed and hopeless. He stopped working and couldn't care for his son. He became suicidal and created a plan to burn down his house while both he and his son were inside. Malkamu continued to deteriorate, becoming completely unemployed and unable to send his son to school. At one point, he spoke with the family's lawyer who had listened to a program on the radio about mental health, PTSD, and trauma healing. The program is hosted by Erkmad Media and Mental Health, a local organization in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, that specializes in family issues, trauma, and counseling. Malkamu's lawyer told him about the radio story and how people are healing from PTSD with psychosocial support. Malkamu was somewhat inspired by this story and decided to contact Erkmad for help. Erkmad Media and Communication is a private social enterprise organization based in Addis Ababa and currently providing service for the public in 3 areas: mental health, education, and media. Erkmad Media and Communication reaches across Ethiopia with its tri-weekly radio program that runs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday afternoon on Fana 98.1 radio. The show on Thursday is renowned for its reality show format. Since 2013, it has reached more than 10 million radio audiences through a weekly radio show on areas of mental health, peace and reconciliation, and family therapy. Erkmad was actively promoting mental wellness in the past decade and was able to reach thousands of people through its trainings and counseling services. Erkmad worked with Malkamu for a year through a holistic approach that included counseling, psychiatric care, entrepreneurship, and job skills. After 5 months, Malkamu was no longer suicidal, and after 8 months, he was able to take a loan from the bank to start a new business. After 12 months, Malkamu actually visited his wife in prison and was able to heal and forgive her. Today, Malkamu is a successful business owner, has paid back his bank loan, is successfully caring for his son, and visits his wife in prison to try to give her hope. He states, "If I hadn't come to Erkmad, both my son and I would be dead. The care that they gave me has saved both of our lives. It has helped me to heal, to become a father once again, and to feel proud about my work and life." Erkmad implements community-based group trauma healing program in different parts of the country where there exists violence, abuse, or psychological crisis. The community-based trauma healing program has been highly contextualized to meet the needs of the community. Erkmad received a lot of fellowships, awards, and recognitions, including the WHO Innovator of Health in 2019. The future Erkmad has a vision to scale up the experience and integrate mental wellness service in health and education settings.
Great. Thank you so much, Ephraim. Let's express our respect and appreciation for the work that you do. And thank you so much for your leadership. Thank you. Bravo. Thank you so much. Our third example is from Uganda. And I'd now like to introduce Dr. Ethel Nakimuli-Mpungu from Group Support Psychotherapy in Uganda. And Ethel, could you give us a quick, just 1 or 2 minute introduction to your program and your video? We've known each other a long time, and you're doing fantastic work, as is Ephraim and Dixon and all the colleagues. So Ethel, if we could highlight you, if you're there, would be great to have your introduction to your video.
Thank you so much, Peter, for that kind introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor to speak at this event. I want to thank WHO for endorsing the SIG GSP program and for inviting me. I also want to thank my funders who have been with us over the years. MQ, Transforming Mental Health, you'll always be in our hearts. Grand Challenges Canada, CRI Foundation, and others. We thank you very much. To my colleagues, Dixon Chibanda, Ephraim, congratulations and thank you for living beyond yourselves. Fantastic innovations over there. Thank you so much. My story goes back 10 years ago when I worked in Northern Uganda. Most persons living with HIV/AIDS woke up every day feeling useless, worthless, and hopeless, without interest in work, unable to feed and educate their children, and many of them spent the day drinking alcohol. These people had depression, but they did not know this. SIG GSP, which stands for Social, Emotional, and Economic Empowerment through Knowledge of Group Support Psychotherapy, is a mental health program that we designed to put an end to this dire situation. In this program, we train lay health workers to recognize and respond to depression by delivering group support psychotherapy, GSP. GSP treats depression by enhancing emotional and social support networks, the ability to practice positive coping skills and income generating skills. One big advantage of GSP is that it doesn't require ongoing input from expert mental health practitioners. Instead, we have trained existing primary healthcare workers in rural health centers to deliver GSP sessions. In turn, they have been able to train lay health workers to identify and treat depression in affected individuals in the villages. In this way, this program has empowered the local communities to take control of their own mental health needs. Now, we have evaluated GSP using randomized control trials, and our results show that it is highly cost-effective. It leads to income generation. It improves art adherence and virus suppression. Back then, we trained only 200 lay health workers. They were able to treat depression in over 5,000 persons living with HIV/AIDS. Going forward, we would like to train 1,000 lay health workers in each of the 5 geographical regions in Uganda. These will be able to treat up to 200,000 individuals annually. We believe that in less than 5 years, GSP has the potential to narrow the treatment gap for depression, especially among persons living with HIV/AIDS. It has the potential to curb HIV transmission, save families from hunger, and enable more children to stay in school. As you all know, the COVID-19 pandemic has increased the need for digital health. We're developing online platforms through which we can deliver GSP to those who can access digital services. I thank you for your attention.
Ethel, that's terrific. Thank you. And let's roll their video, Carlos, for group support psychotherapy.
After the numerous training of the primary healthcare workers from different health centers on GSP model, we started a follow-up on the healthcare workers within the 3 districts, and the purpose was to see how they can administer the skills they had attained from the previous training as the first-line treatment. We have seen a positive progress and interaction with both the healthcare workers and the beneficiaries, and this is what they had to say.
One thing that I've learned well is drug adherence. From the lessons I learned from here, specifically on HIV, drugs and depression, I've started feeling so happy ever since we started the session. Another thing is my sleep has really improved. Before, I would wake up at night around 2 p.m. and until morning, I don't sleep. But nowadays, I sleep, I feel rested, go to the garden and do my digging and come back home.
Before me joining this group, I had a lot of worries and depressive thoughts because I'd lost my mom, I'd lost my wife and my child. Then I had always those suicidal thoughts before joining the group. Right now I feel good because now in the group we've been sharing personal experiences and I feel now relieved.
When I came to the group, they welcomed me and then I joined. From there they began to share with us how to overcome depression thoughts. Then from being in the group, such thoughts, with time as we continue learning, it ended.
The model is great because I didn't know even that people really had problems like depression, a serious one. But I realized that really depression is really a very big problem in our society. I'm seeing the group members are getting improvement. And that is the greatest thing that we are aiming at. Because I'm seeing changes. There are some people who actually feel like they were to commit suicide, but at least now they are not thinking about those bad suicidal.
Great. Well, thank you, Ethel. Thank you so much for your work. And that was a great illustration and a beautiful presentation. Your careful and evidence-based approach is evident. And thank you. And thanks for laying out the scaling numbers, which we'll talk about in a second. And now would like to pivot to the part of the program where we talk about what could WHO's unique contribution be here, and how could partners work with innovators, with WHO representatives to really go from tens of thousands of reach to millions of reach, because that's the point of this whole thing, to get us back on track to the SDGs. If we could bring up our 3 WRs, Alex Gasizira from Zimbabwe, Jonas Tegen from Uganda, and Burema Sambo from Ethiopia, that would be terrific. Let's start with Alex, but if we could bring all 3 onto the screen, that would also be terrific, Carlos and Thierry. So Alex, I think you're there. Dixon said that you and he had been working together. The key here is tapping into the demand, obviously, in the country, working with the government, scaling this innovation from the 80,000 to millions, and then working with fellow WRs to scale it throughout the region and frankly throughout the world. Alex, it would be great to hear your thoughts on how you might do that with Friendship Bench concretely, and your thoughts about scaling these innovations. And thank you for your leadership. The WRs really are the tip of the spear here. Alex, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much, Peter. Good morning, good evening, DG, Dr. Moeti, colleagues. Yes, we have been working very closely with Dixon, and we are working on 3 or 4 areas, concrete areas in terms of scaling up. One, to help document the process of introducing this innovation and what other communities or societies or countries could do to scale it up. So documentation is one of the areas we're working on. Number two, we are working on, mobilizing additional resources. We are fortunate in Zimbabwe that the government is really committed and demonstrating very strong leadership for non-communicable diseases and mental health. As we speak, the additional resources that government has put for health, we are advocating very strongly that some of these go to supporting the scaling up of the Friendship Bench. We are working with other donors and partners who have been very supportive. The catalytic funds that we have received under the WHO Director General Special Initiative for mental health has facilitated a lot of the important dialogue that has happened in the country in the last couple of months, where we have discussed Friendship Bench at length. The other area that we're working on is strengthening the partnership with private sector. There's a concept of introducing the Friendship Bench in the workplace for workers, especially at this time when there's increasing demand. So that's another area that we have working on. And lastly, as mentioned by Dixon, a Friendship Bench had already made some inroads with Liberia and Rwanda. I have spoken to the WRs in both countries to share our experiences, and we are working very closely with the regional office to facilitate this scaling up to these countries and any other countries that may express interest. Thank you.
Alex, thank you so much. And Jonas, if I could bring you in here, Jonas Tegen from Uganda. Same question to you in relationship to Ethel Mpungu's innovation. Jonas, how do you see working with Ethel? How do you see working with other innovations to scale them in Uganda? Just riffing off Alex's comments, if you wouldn't mind.
Thank you very much, Peter, and thank you all the participants and for this innovation. I have to admit that I think this initiative from you, Peter, has enabled us to come into contact with Ethel. We knew her about her work, but we didn't have much interaction. So in the last weeks, we have been discussing with Ethel to see how to take it forward. And we see a number of options. One is we already have established an innovation hub with the Ministry of Science and Technology as part of the Afro initiative, which we are going to bring on board to promote this as an innovative work. But also one of the most important link we are creating is the link between the Ministry of Health and Ethel's innovation, which hasn't been optimal. So that is one of the areas we are working on. And we are looking into working with NGOs, the education sector and religious sector. But also there is a unique opportunity to work with what we call the Ugandan Parliament Forum on Mental Health. This has been going on, but we have initiated and we have a discussion with the Parliamentary Forum to take not only laws and regulations related to mental health to be strengthened and promoted, but also they are taking up these innovations and other innovations in multi-sectoral engagement in mental health. And as you said, I think this gives us an opportunity to also link this innovation with other countries. I know Ethel has already discussions with South Africa, Sierra Leone, and Kenya, and linking her with the WRs and the WHO officers to pilot this and mainstream it in those countries would be what we are looking forward. Thank you.
Jonas, thank you so much. And great leadership, both of you. And also now I'd like to call upon my friend Barema Sambo. Barema, Dr. Barema, Same question in Ethiopia with regard to Ephraim's innovation and other mental health innovations. And thank you all three of you for your friendship and for your leadership.
Thank you, Peter. The DG, RD, distinguished colleagues, partner and guests, ladies and gentlemen, warm greetings from Addis Ababa. Peter, just building on what Alex and Johannes have said, is just to say it's given me a great pleasure to add my voice to what other speakers have said, reinforcing the importance of this event to celebrate successes of innovations emerging from Africa. It's well known that the definition of success for any innovation is defined through its impact, scale, and sustainability. And I'm sure many of people in this meeting will agree with me. As a WHO, we are in the unique position to accelerate impacts of these and other innovations by catalyzing their adoption and scaling up at country level. Countries listened to our influence and guidance on implementing innovative solutions with potential for sustainable impact. You can understand that I'm very excited to see the ERCMAD reconciliation table innovation being showcased in this event. And thank you to Ephraim Waldeus. We did the same at the WHO country level by profiling Mercaid in our websites in November 2020. It was in realization of the fact that with the added pressure of the COVID-19 pandemic, their journey of innovation to meet people's mental health needs amid unprecedented times has been further spurred on. The Ethiopian government is committed to support local innovators to scale up innovation, especially with a view to boost local production of medical products and technologies that will accelerate health outcomes. Through the Ministry of Innovation and Technology, the Ethiopian government is on the drive to enact new policies and strategies in the development in the technology sector that are in line with the nation's development plan. Currently, the 10-year development plan of Ethiopia, the pathway to prosperity, is implemented alongside with the Health Sector Transformation Plan 2, 2021-2025. It is no doubt that the health sector stand to benefit a lot of the current transformation driven by innovation and technology. Just 3 weeks ago, Peter and dear colleagues, 17 innovations to address COVID-19 pandemic and its mental health and psychosocial challenges were presented at the National Health Forum, the health-grown solution for COVID-19 in Ethiopia. This range from mechanical ventilators, X-ray and CT scan for testing COVID, web-based automation for justice system with a mobile intervention, and electronic procurement system, what we call the e-procurement for government services. The task entrusted in us in WHO and other partners is really to support scaling up of these solutions. Our role is to unlock the demands for innovation at country level and making sure that innovation being scaled up respond to countries' needs in a sustainable way. Lastly, just to say, the 3 levels of our support remain critical for us to achieve meaningful traction in our effort to scale up innovations. As a country, as a WHO country office, we will continue to foster development and scaling up of impactful health innovations in the country. And I count on your support to unlock strategic partnership and funding to support sustainable scaling up of these innovations. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Burema. Thank you, Jonas. Thank you, Alex. And let's now turn to one of key partners. We have a couple of key partners from Norway and from Grand Challenges Canada with us. And then we'll go back to your regional colleagues and citizen representatives. But Tina Assisi from Grand Challenges Canada, I understand you have a surprise for us and a short announcement to make. So please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Peter, and thank you to all the participants on this in this meeting. I'm pleased to speak on behalf of Grand Challenges Canada today. Over the last decade, our focus has been on enabling promising innovations to transition to scale, to maximize their impact, and to save and improve lives. One of the things we've learned working in the innovation for impact space is that for an innovation to fully go to scale, it requires a broader range of resources than can be mobilized by any single country or organization or funder. Partners at the local, regional, national, and international levels that can mobilize the necessary resources are critical to sustainably scale innovations. And this is where WHO's focus on demand, technical expertise, and in-country presence is unique and potentially transformative to multiplying the reach of innovation. One of the examples raised here in this session today of an innovation that is successfully transitioning to scale is the scale up in Zimbabwe of Friendship Bench, an innovation that Grand Challenges Canada has supported at the proof of concept and early stages of scale. And although Grand Challenges Canada has funded this promising innovation, it will require more than seed and early stage innovation funding to have system level impact and long-term sustainability. To address this need for broader support, I'm very pleased to announce that this WHO-led scaling project has just been approved by our board of directors and will be receiving a grant of 1 million Canadian dollars from Grand Challenges Canada, designed to catalyze the health system reforms needed to sustain this innovation over the long term in Zimbabwe, a role that the WHO is uniquely equipped to perform in collaboration with the Ministry of Health and Childcare in Zimbabwe, and of course, Dixon and the outstanding team at Friendship Bench. More broadly, Grand Challenges Canada, with anchor funding from the Government of Canada, is in the midst of launching new funding opportunities with an explicit aim of catalyzing public sector demand that can support and enable more innovations to sustainably go to scale. And in this regard, I'm hopeful and optimistic that our opportunities for collaboration with the WHO and other partners on this call will only increase as we collectively drive for innovation's impact at scale. So on that note, thank you all, and back to you, Peter.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you for that announcement. I'm sure Dixon and Devorah and the country office and the regional office and all the folks that will be energized by this support are very grateful. So thank you, Tina, much appreciated. And let me now pivot to another great supporter of NCDs and mental health, which is the government of Norway. And I want to welcome now Marianne Monclair, who is from NORAD. And NORAD is a major contributor to the WHO Special Initiative for Global Health, and would love to hear your thoughts on how bilateral partners can support the type of couplets the innovator, country office, supported, as we'll hear in a second, by the regional office, those type of couplets that we heard about. So Marianne, over to you, and thank you so much for the vision of Norway of supporting NCDs, which cause 70% of the deaths in the world, and mental health, which causes the 13% of the global burden of disease and suffering. So over to you, Marianne, and you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter, and thank you for the great presentations that we have heard here previous today, and to Canada for coming up with additional resources. That was fantastic news. So we have a few points from NORAD that we think is important when going to scale, and maybe we've heard them throughout the webinar today. And the first and maybe most important thing is that the programs are owned and led by the countries themselves, and the national government and the ministries. These are long-term programs and need to be well anchored in the national system. And with scarce resources, it also put the need to make strict prioritization to look at what type of interventions that is actually possible to scale up and possible to find in the context where they are going to be implemented. And then thirdly, that these interventions is integrated into the national health packages and rolled out on a national scale, and that can be part of the national health services in the public health. So looking at the finance, there is, even if finances are coming in from partners like Norway and other donors, it won't be enough to actually cover the gap. And we believe that one has to look much more at domestic level to see what type of opportunities are there and if they're going to be sustainable for a long time, to look at the partners that has been mentioned before, all from civil society, private partners, maybe through taxation or partnering up with the private sector. But also that the national government is reflecting the commitment and the prioritization in the all national budgets will be important. So also by creating the demand for services, which is important to provide access to people who need them. One have to look at strengthening the health system that has been mentioned, and it's a strong part of the special initiative in order to provide quality services and to invest also in the health personnel, that health workers, that is going to be a key factor on the delivery side. So we would like to say really big thank you to WHO and to the special initiative. We are very impressed with what you have been able to achieve in short term and also able to develop in the time of the COVID epidemic. So thank you very much. We are very proud to be a partner of the WHO and see your special added value, particularly at the country level. So thank you very much.
Marianne, thank you. You captured the dynamic beautifully. Thank you for those excellent comments. Thank you to NORAD and to Norway for your support of this very, very important area and of WHO. It's much appreciated. Thank you. I want to pivot now to kind of the last partner we have on the program, and then I'm going to track back to our regional representatives and then go to a close. We will extend a little bit beyond our scheduled time because we started a little bit late, but not too long, don't worry. And now, on the demand side, the money, the health systems, and all this is primary healthcare, obviously, is extremely important. But the most important thing of all is the voice of the consumer, the voice of the patient, the voice of the people that WHO is trying to serve. And to address that, I'd like to call upon Eleni Miskanau, who's the chairperson of the Mental Health Service Users Association in Ethiopia. Eleni, if you could give us some brief comments from that perspective, that'd be much appreciated, and you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Peter, and everyone here. And thank you for having me. I think the fact that service users are represented in such a high-level meeting showcase that WHO is committed to involving service users, because the role of persons with lived experience is important in scaling up innovations. And the WHO approach of multi-player partner is also reflecting in the service users and their organization's involvement, because they bring their unique perspective to the table. And we know that mental health is beyond health issue. It is a social and cultural issue as well. So service users can help contextualize the innovations so that they respond to the local needs. And when it comes to Irq-Ma'ad, specific to Irq-Ma'ad, the reconciliation table, service users and their organizations, our organizations, can play important role in boosting the demand, because in Ethiopia, help-seeking behavior is still a challenge. Mental distress is not an easy discussion. So we would like to work to collaborate with Irq-Ma'ad the reconciliation table to boosting the demand. And another area of collaboration is promoting the innovation itself, because Erkamaad responds to a policy priority, because in the National Mental Health Strategic Plan, in the 5-year strategic plan that is launched in the last July, community-based interventions are recognized as one part of optimal mix of mental health care delivery. So we will leverage on the commitment of the government, on the strategy, on the strategic plan, to collaborate with Erkamaad to the scaling up of this. So thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eleni, for representing the very important user's voice, and also to Marianne and Tina, and that's kind of a segment on partners. And now we'd like to turn to a couple of fantastic regional office colleagues. And Carlos and Terry, if it's at all possible to put up Mordrek Chibi and Dr. J.M. Dangu, Dr. Mordrek Chibi, Dr. J.M. Dangu together, that would be great. But if not, I'll deal with it. Would also like to, at this point, recognize my sister Florence Bangama, who's really been incredibly helpful in preparing this at the regional level. So let me go first to Mordrek. Mordrek, you've been a champion in innovation here. What would you like to add to what you've heard? The regional office is so important in supporting these initiatives and those fantastic WHO representatives that we heard from, true leaders working so closely with countries, with governments, and with people. Mordrek, if you have some brief comments as we close, that would be terrific.
Thank you very much, Peter. I've been listening, and we've been talking a lot about innovation, and I was just wondering if people are on the same page as what innovation entails. So in development terms, we try to define innovation as a new solution with transformative ability to accelerate impact. So you would appreciate that innovation has become a key differentiating feature and transformative as well, that defines long-term sustainable impact on improving the quality of life. As has been alluded before, there's greater impact, actually greater demand, especially in Africa, to intensify our efforts in innovation to address some of the contextual challenges that has resulted in poor health outcomes. For instance, worse health outcomes are experienced in fragile contexts and also among marginalized groups. So, however, it has been clearly demonstrated that leveraging emerging technologies and innovation, it is possible to develop high quality, resilient health systems that can respond to actually changing population needs. We have seen countries adopting emerging technologies that have leapfrogged healthcare delivery to benefit hard to reach areas, especially in rural areas with limited access to health services. So our role as WHO is very, very, very important. I'll just briefly touch on 3 things. Because of our leadership in global health, we should intensify our effort in shaping the innovation agenda. As part of the GPW13, we have set ourselves to achieve triple billion targets. So we can start to influence development of those innovations that can accelerate achievements of our set targets. For instance, with respect to universal health coverage, we should even influence development of those innovations that can target the vulnerable groups, as well as development of innovation that can be deployed to difficult places. Secondly, Peter, I think it's also important to recognize that because of our direct interfacing with governments at the highest level, we can influence adoption and scaling up of those innovations that could accelerate impact in a sustainable way, and supporting countries to strengthen their innovation management system to be able to harness and scale up those innovations that respond to their health priorities. As you can imagine, in Afro, we have already started working closely with different countries. I was happy to hear WR Uganda, Jonas, making reference to some of the work that we are doing with Uganda, and we are actually engaging closely with Botswana, and also Zimbabwe is coming on board, basically with a request to help them strengthen their innovation ecosystem. And our third role is very much linked to this event, where we can leverage, our wide network of partners and use our channels to communicate success of innovations emerging from different parts of the world with a potential impact globally. So this is why we've also developed an innovation marketplace platform that is heavily patronized by over 10 million subscribers here in Afro. Basically, this platform is intended to match, the supply and demand of innovations, and also to make scaling a continuous process. So, Peter, I certainly believe as WHO, we are very much in the right direction. And thanks a lot to the devoted commitment from the DG and also the regional directors towards this area of work, which I believe is so critical and so timely, and it's very, very important. Over to you, Peter.
Thank you, Mordrek, my brother. And thank you especially for stressing the importance of innovation within countries themselves and those innovation systems. If there's one lesson from COVID, it's the need to balance, let's say, global charity, which is very much appreciated, with local and national and regional self-reliance. And innovation is one of the key tools to do that. And so thank you so much, Mordrek, for mentioning that. Our final speaker before we turn to their regional director is Dr. J.M. Dengu. J.M., if you could just give us very brief comments. I think Mordrek has covered well the regional angle. We're about to go to Dr. Moeti, but I do want to give you a chance to come in from the kind of NCD perspective in the regional office. If you could do so, that would be terrific, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Peter. A very good morning, very good afternoon or evening to all. The three innovations we are discussing really respond to the needs of the countries, namely the inadequate knowledge of mental health conditions in the general population, as well as stigma and discrimination and the lack of services at community level. The challenge for Africa is not that we are not able to do for ourselves, but that often the homegrown solution for the problems in the region, even when there is a randomized controlled evidence of effectiveness, are not scaled up in the countries where they are innovated nor replicated in the region. Often, it's because the linkage between the ministries of health and the innovators may not have been made. As Afro, we focus on improving knowledge of mental health conditions in the health decision makers, in health workers, but also in the general population. One of our strategies to do this is to provide opportunities for innovations responding to country needs to thrive and replicate in the region and beyond. Afro, the regional office, will continue in close collaboration with the WRs to offer a space to innovators and startups to showcase homegrown innovations tailored to African context, and we will continue to promote them at national, sub-regional, and regional levels. We also aim at continuing connecting Africa innovators with national authorities, potential donors, industries, as well as other actors in Africa and worldwide. Lack of or insufficient financial resources remains a big issue for innovators and startups. Afro will continue contributing to the resource mobilization in supporting startups, innovators, and scaling innovations at country level. I thank you.
Thank you so much, JM. Thank you to all regional colleagues for their incredible support of this initiative. Thanks also to the WRs. Your leadership was amazing. And of course, to the innovators and our partners. We featured here Norway, Grand Challenges Canada, and the Users Association. Towards the end, I want to call now upon Dr. Shidi Moeti for her closing reflections based on what you've heard. Shidi, we tried to emphasize the links between innovation and impact, and the contribution to the SDGs, and the contribution of WHO at all three levels to going from tens of thousands of reach to millions of reach as we try to get back on track after COVID to the SDGs, and in no area more important than mental health. Would be great to have your reflections, Shidi, on what you've heard. And thank you so much again for your leadership and for your championship of innovation with impact. Shidi, over to you.
Yeah, okay. So thanks very much, Peter. And first, I'd like to congratulate you for having organized and designed this very inspiring, I'd say, session, truly. And I'll tell you why in a minute from a very personal perspective. And I'd like to also thank and congratulate everybody who took part. First and foremost, our colleagues who were involved in initiating and developing these innovations in the country examples that we saw. And you know, the very thoughtful, really driven by need work that they did under very challenging circumstances to try to bridge gaps in a highly, if you like, neglected and an area of public health and of global health that really does need not only innovation, but additional investment as well. So that was extremely inspiring. And then I do think that the discussions that have taken place today, the demonstration of the contribution to supporting the innovation, linking the innovation to resourcing so that it can be tried out in the field, and then very importantly, creating partnerships for the innovation and linking it first within countries with other areas of the health system so that it can kind of grow naturally into an integral part of health system. And then I think very much what Louise called the matchmaking role of WHO. I really like that phrase, because in my discussion with our colleagues in looking at the potential role of WHO, right from the supporting the innovation, which Sumia talked about, to making those links with the healthcare needs in countries, with decision makers in countries, with resources and partners in countries, and therefore leveraging the potential for scaling up really is matchmaking. I've been calling it WHO being the salesperson. I think matchmaking is a more dignified way of calling it, I think. So we'll adopt that. But I think the examples that we've seen of the potential role of WHO at different levels then, at the global level, creating the frameworks and supporting the science and very much pushing that role of ensuring that this is evidence-based, that we actually do evaluate and see that a small innovation has the potential first to have an impact, and then secondly, looking at its potential for being scaled up. And the role we can play at the regional level to promote this in different countries and to make the link with the global role and what happens in countries, and very much the role in countries then of really playing that matchmaker role with the governments. And we've had some emphasis placed on the role of governments since they are if you like, in the ownership of what happens in their national health system, and in providing the potential for scaling up if they put this in their policies, their programs, and play their role as the managers of a national health system. I found that the role that our WHO colleagues at the country level can play, because we are influencers, we are advisors, we support the development of national policies, we support the selection of interventions to go into national systems. We have an overview of the different programs in countries that offer opportunities for integration. And here I'd like to really emphasize integration, and Devorah emphasized that very much as well. That, you know, the way, at least if I look at our region, the way our national health systems have evolved really drives fragmentation, a lack of efficiency, waste, and wasted opportunities. So I'd like to emphasize very much that notion of our potential to support integrated ways of working in countries that are under-resourced, and our countries will remain under-resourced for a long time, and to give the opportunity, as has been very well demonstrated by the innovators. They themselves promoted integration. And so we can learn from that example really in the way that we are promoting health development, scaling up and reaching the millions with some innovations. I also just would like to reflect on the importance of partnership in terms of resources and financing. That, you know, if we take the example of Grand Challenges, Canada, a very stable partner who has stayed the course with some of the innovators, providing some financing and recognizing that there's a need as a partner like that to link other financiers into this process. And the example of NORAD as a funder of national health systems. I mean, I've worked in my different roles in health in my own country, in Botswana, in a country like Malawi as a WR, with Norway as one of the key funders of sort of core national health systems and driving that integrated approach. So I think we really have demonstrated in this session already a direction of linking the different roles of WHO, working in ways that I believe, Peter, demonstrate the potential to actually reach the millions. So what we need to do is to extract the lessons from this example and make that part of our mainstream working around different areas. It's very lucky, and I think I'm very pleased that in Afro we happen to have, we've just gone through a restructuring, which has been a rather harrowing process. We're about to finalize it, but one of the shifts that we've made in establishing this assistant regional director role, which is driving integration, is to link it then with our work on innovation. And we have in there our primary healthcare. We're going to have a primary healthcare team. I think that's one of the ways in which we're going to help to integrate around health services, so that we stop one day, we stop talking about programs. I don't expect programs to disappear altogether, but it's my wish that we really try to have a holistic look at a national health system in which key areas will be prioritized, the links will be made, and where we stand the best chance, I believe, of scaling up brilliant innovations. So thank you. I found that a very inspiring and encouraging session, and I'd like to congratulate and thank all the participants for the different roles that you are playing towards this objective. Thanks very much, Peter. I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Shidi. I mean, you summed it up so beautifully. I won't sum it up. I'll just say what she said. And thank you so much for your own leadership. You know, that's a lesson from COVID, that leadership really matters. Effective leadership is the most effective vaccine, in a sense. And we really saw incredible leadership from the innovators, from the WHO representatives, the regional colleagues, and all the partners, the donors, and where I want to end, and I want to say a special shout out to the logistical people who helped us, and the content people, Devorah's team, Louise's team, etc., the audiovisual team. And I want to especially thank Louise for energizing this area, working closely with Mordrek and your colleagues. But where I wanted to end, Shidi, and I think knowing you, I know you'll agree with this, I want us to end with a focus on Grandma Komai and GIFT. And, you know, what this is all about is not this process or that process or these resources or those resources or these partnerships or those partnerships. That's all extremely important to achieve our objective. But our objective is what we heard from GIFT, a life completely transformed. That's what we mean by impact at the country level. That's what we mean by the Sustainable Development Goals. So GIFT really gave us a gift in describing his own personal experience. And I think Grandma Komai illustrated beautifully the dedication of health workers. And I want you to remember you generally, the audience, just think about that picture of those two sitting there together, because those are the people we all serve, and that's really what it's all about. Shidi, I'm sure you'll agree. I don't know if you want to come back on that, or I see you nodding. Yeah. Okay.
No, I agree very strongly, Peter. I mean, it starts and it finishes with people. I agree very much.
Yeah. And that's also, what Dr. Tedros has been emphasizing, along with you, Shidi, impact at the country level. That's really what it's all about. And so with that, I think it's time for us to close. Sometimes the hardest thing is to close, but somebody has to do it. So I'll do it. And I just really wanted to thank everyone who participated, everyone working in the area of mental health. It was neglected, it's less neglected, but it still needs to be emphasized. And it's so important. And together, I have no doubt that we can go back towards the SDGs and towards the recovery. So on behalf of Dr. Tedros, on behalf of WHO, thank you so much, everybody. And we are now adjourned. We're done here. Thank you. Bye-bye.